Welcome to Dementia Air, a content channel devoted solely to exploring topics related to dementia. Dementia Air is a production of Beyond Dementia Coalition, a not-for-profit 501c3 which seeks to reduce stigma and help all of us not only recognize but also accept, assist, and embrace people living with dementia as valued and beloved members of the community. See the person beyond the disease. Joining us today is Abby Reed, a financial advisor with a fiduciary responsibility to her clients and co-CEO of Reed Financial Group. Abby specializes in retirement planning, long-term care strategies, and protecting older adults from financial risk. And thank you for being here today, by the way.
Thank you for having me, Bruce. I'm glad to be here. Should I jump into the disclosure?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, LLC, referred to as BCM, a registered investment advisor. BCM and Reed Financial Group are independent of each other. Insurance products and services are not offered through BCM, but are offered and sold through individually licensed and appointed agents. Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interest of our clients and to make full disclosure of any conflicts of interest, if any exist. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV 2A, item 4, for additional information.
Abby, first question for you. What brought you to Abby Reed, to be a financial advisor and then to Reed Financial? And then maybe we can define fiduciary and fiduciary responsibility rather than just saying the terms. What does that mean to you, and what does it mean to your business and the way you conduct business?
Perfect. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. I know it's a term that people have maybe heard, but they don't know exactly what that means. So I think that's a good thing to address. So I was kind of born into the business, is how I like to describe it. My father, Gary Reed, started Reed Financial Group over 40 years ago. And I really grew up getting to know his clients, being involved in the business, going to his office, and I don't think I was very helpful, but he made me feel like I was very helpful, filing and greeting clients, getting them coffee, those sort of things. And I saw the relationship that he had with his clients, and I knew that he was making a difference in their lives. And he also made it look very fun, which is not easy to do sometimes, but he just made it seem like the best job in the world. And so I decided in actually middle school that I wanted to do exactly what my dad did. And I didn't know exactly what that meant because I was just in middle school. So I went back and forth a little bit about my career choice, but ultimately I decided to stick with it. I went to Kennesaw State University and got a finance degree, and then joined the business immediately. I was part-time throughout college as well. But I joined full-time after I graduated, and then started getting my licenses, my certifications, including the Series 65, which makes me a fiduciary and have that fiduciary responsibility. So that's kind of my path here. And I have found I think my calling, which I was so lucky to be born with somebody that does the same thing, and I found my path fairly early. So I've been doing this for quite a long time, and I love working with everybody, of course, but our specialty is with retirement planning. So people that are close to retirement or even in retirement. And I also really have a big passion for helping women with financial literacy, helping them make those big financial decisions. A lot of times they're thrust into the role of financial decision maker, and they've never had that responsibility before. So that's something that I really love to do as well. And we can talk about the fiduciary term because I just mentioned that. So what that means is there's a couple of different ways to use that term, but in summary, it means that I have, and we at Reed Financial Group have a legal responsibility to do what's in our client's best interest at all times. So we cannot put ourselves or our company's interest ahead of our clients. Meaning, if there's two different strategies that I could recommend, one is just okay for the client, but it pays me more. The other one is much better, obviously, for the client, but it pays me less. I have a responsibility to choose what's truly in my client's best interest and put my interest in the back seat, which is where they should be. And that's become more in the forefront as far as the financial industry goes, which it should be.
So let's start with what is wealth care and
Mhm.
why is it important? Yeah, it's a big term. I'm not sure I know what it means. Looks like a fun word, wealth care.
Yeah.
Let's figure that out.
It's
So,
very catchy, right? And I do have to say, I did not invent it. I wish I could take credit for it, but I don't know who did, honestly. But I think it's very catchy, and I like that it's easy to remember. So when I think of wealth care, I think of a greater integration between wealth management and health care or health management because we know from many studies that health and wealth are very much interconnected. So financial stress is one of a leading indicator for all kinds of health issues. I mean, stress can wreak havoc on our bodies and our minds, and financial stress is one of the biggest triggers for most people, especially in today's world with inflation and everything being just more difficult, I think, these days. So it's bringing those two worlds together because they're very siloed right now. They're very much dealt with separately. So your healthcare professional doesn't really know about your finances. Your advisor, if you have one, probably doesn't know a ton about your health, maybe a little bit on the surface, but not in depth. And that is an issue with, especially with retirement planning, because longevity, healthcare costs, those are the two biggest risks to your retirement and to your money in retirement. And so it does need to be more integrated than it is right now in this industry.
so tell me about the financial toll that it does that dementia might take. And cognitive decline is one thing, but cognitive impairment and dementia is another. So maybe you can speak to that in terms of what that really means from a financial standpoint.
I found a study about dementia's financial toll in especially in the early years. So, what the study found is that people that are diagnosed with dementia, their net worth goes down by 27% within 2 years. And that's typically before, so that's when symptoms start. So that's typically before an actual diagnosis because
Wow.
it takes a bit. And then within 8 years, the net worth drop is 61%, as opposed to people without dementia, their net worth typically stays flat or maybe even increases. So that's, I mean, that is a huge swing. And that just shows the financial burden on not only the person that's been diagnosed with it, but also the family unit. Because a lot of times it's, it takes a village, as people say. And especially with this, I mean, it can hit the family on all sides. So out of pocket costs for healthcare, the study showed that they doubled, which most people cannot handle, an annual doubling of their health out of pocket health care. Unpaid care, so going back to the family's involvement, unpaid care, meaning you have a friend or a family member coming over and caring for you, went up 45 hours a month by year two versus 13 hours for someone that's older but maybe doesn't have a diagnosis or doesn't have extensive memory issues. A couple other things that indicate financial stress is nursing home entry was nearly 5 times more likely within the first 2 years, and nursing homes are exceedingly expensive. And unfortunately, a lot of misconception out there is that Medicare, which is the obviously the health insurance that we have in this country for people that are over 65, and sometimes if you're disabled, you can get it before that, but it doesn't cover a lot of those cares or a lot of those types of care for long-term care. So what we see also is that Medicaid, which is the other program for people that are in a different financial situation, nearly doubled as well within the first 8 years, and that's a huge indicator of financial issues.
It's amazing. So we often cite statistics that are national or worldwide statistics in terms of what we might call the dementia tsunami, right?
Hmm.
And we're seeing the ripples of what might be coming.
Yeah.
But it's amazing when you translate it to what you see on a personal level with somebody and what that means. And my
Hmm.
first question, or my question related to this, is you talked about I guess, counseling or advising women, especially in terms of becoming a financial decision maker
Yes.
and being a better financial decision maker. And very often, in terms of dementia and caregiving, the unpaid caregiver is the spouse or a member of the family. How does that play out in your world? What are the dynamics like, and how can you get involved? I mean, are you restricted in any way in terms of what you can disclose to a family member?
We really like to get to know our clients and have a close relationship with them. So that puts us in a unique position to be kind of a frontline defense because we do know our clients and we're going to notice whether it's me or whether it's somebody, in the front office that talks to them on a regular basis. We're going to notice if something is off, and we have before with our clients. But then it's a matter of what do we do? And there are very strict confidentiality laws for advisors, as there should be. And we have to stick to those no matter what. If a power of attorney is not evoked, which it typically isn't, because these signs happen way before an actual diagnosis, and then the diagnosis can happen, but that doesn't mean that there's a financial power of attorney involved yet. So there's a long pathway where a lot can go wrong, and we really can't do much about it. And that is not a good feeling as the advisor because you kind of see a train wreck coming potentially, and you have to not only protect your client's autonomy, so they're still the decision maker. It's still their plan, their money. So you want to follow their wishes. But all you can really do at that point is encourage them, have an honest conversation with them and tell them, I'm seeing some signs that I have not seen in you before. And it's my responsibility to talk to you about that. I want to know how you want me to handle this. If it gets worse, do you want to bring in your son or your daughter or your niece or your nephew? What's that relationship like? Can they come to a meeting so that I can meet them ahead of time? So those are the things that we like to do and that we are legally allowed to do. But there is a lack um, of uh, of power really in what we can do in those early stages, especially even if we see the red flags, which I'm happy to touch on as well.
Yeah, why don't we touch on those right now? And then I've got some questions about what you just said. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So early red flags, this was from a study, a different study that I found, but it said that up to 5 years before a diagnosis, these type issues can start cropping up. So early financial troubles, 34% of people that were diagnosed with either dementia or Alzheimer's were more likely to fall behind on credit card payments in the year before a diagnosis. So it's these people that have never had credit issues before, and then all of a sudden they're missing payments or they just stop paying their credit card in general. And then 17% are more likely to miss mortgage payments without having a prior history of missing any kind of payments. There's also a lot of behavioral shifts, or I don't want to say a lot of, there can be certain behavioral shifts, I should say. So what we look for is maybe repetitive questions, things that we've addressed before. And of course, these things can happen to anybody, which is the tricky part, because is it just human error or is this an indicator that something else is going on? One thing that is typically a very good indicator, though, is out of character, risky, or reckless financial decisions. That is one of those things where maybe it can be explained away by typical aging or a mistake or an accident, but in my experience, most of the time, that's an indication that something is wrong, whether it's Alzheimer's, dementia, or maybe some other health issue, but something is going on there. And that's typically the biggest red flag. And then, of course, with vulnerability, which is a little bit of a different issue. But if there's a new person suddenly involved in the finances that I've never even heard of, a new friend, quote unquote, and also one of the things that stood out to me is that increased financial generosity has been linked to cognitive issues. So giving more money away than typical can be an indication that there's something that's changing.
Yeah, it all adds up. The executive function is held in the frontal temporal lobe, and
Mm,
especially with dementia, that tends to diminish over time, and your executive functions and skills tend to diminish as well. And that's where you see somebody going out and buying a Ferrari when they're like 93 years old. So
right.
maybe it's
Right.
appropriate, maybe not. There's
Right.
also the difficulty when you're talking about cognitive decline. There's normal cognitive decline as you age, right? That's just
Right.
the way it is. With dementia and other and Alzheimer's and other dementias, you very often have the cognitive impairment that comes with it that you probably see signs of, but there's always that question up front: is it normal or is it not? And even in a family situation, there's very often denial, you know, stigma attached to do I have dementia or not? And yeah, so do you want to talk about that, the dynamics that you see, and
Sure. Yeah.
what makes it either easier or more difficult for you in terms of having that conversation with the family?
It is difficult. It's something that is a big diagnosis, and it's something that I think maybe all of us are a little bit afraid of, no matter how old we are, because we've probably had experience with either, a loved one struggling with it, or a friend, or a loved one of a friend. I mean, we all have our experiences with it, and we know that it's hard and it's hard on the family. And so I think a lot of that denial comes from knowing everything's going to change, or at least thinking and feeling like everything's going to change once that diagnosis is officially made, and the stigma that comes with that, and the fear of losing control of everything, losing your autonomy, not being able to make your own decisions. And so I think people try and push it off for as long as possible. And that's when they're in the most risk, because there's not people watching them. There's not, power of attorney involved, and that can be difficult. So I had a client who has been a client of ours for many, many, many years. She worked with my dad for a long time, and now I get to work with her. And she was having not serious issues that I had seen, but she was definitely feeling more flustered than usual. She was getting a little bit more confused than usual. She also had a lot of stress, though, in her life. So that can also do that. But I'll never forget, I was in my office, I was talking to her on my phone, and she said, Abby, I think I might have some memory issues. I'm not able to deal with things like I used to. And I've noticed that I'm a little bit more forgetful. And I was, pretty shocked to hear that. And immediately thinking, okay, what do I do? What do I need to do? How can I protect her? It's not a formal diagnosis, obviously. I'm not, nearly, there's no way I can help her diagnose that. I encouraged her, of course, to go get a medical opinion. And immediately she got kind of defensive. No, 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 I don't want to do that. And I know her daughter. I've talked to her daughter many times. Um, and she said, do not tell her. Like, whatever you do, I don't want anybody to know. Please don't tell her. She's got enough going on in her own life. It'll be fine. And so that put me in a very difficult position. And what are the next steps? I'm not legally or ethically able to call up her daughter and say, hey, this is what your mom just told me, nor should I be able to do that. That's not fair. It's her decision. And luckily, we were able to. It wasn't a really quick decline. She's doing pretty well now, which is great. But this was kind of a best case scenario, because she already had her daughter involved, at least on the peripheral. And I already had a pretty good relationship with her daughter, so she kind of knew what was going on. And then slowly and surely, I encouraged her, bring her into the meetings with us, have her drive you here. It's okay. I mean, it's nice. It's great to have help, because she's also a widow too, that didn't make the financial decisions, and now she is in that role. So now her daughter is very involved in all of our meetings, which makes me feel so much better. It makes her feel so much better. It has been a great scenario, but unfortunately, not everybody has that, and it's not going to end up like that every time. And in situations where there's not somebody trusted that's going to step in, that has their best interest at heart, I don't have an answer for that, and that is something that needs to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And just a quick question. So you work as a team within your office, Reed Financial. Um, to what extent does the rest of the office get involved? They'll have contact with your clients as well. So
Yes.
are they aware and yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. So all of our staff is pretty well trained on the red flags to look out for. And I also give them and encourage them to come to me if they see concerns, because
Right.
they might be interacting with one of my clients in a certain period of time more than I am. And or I might not see it. I could miss it. And so we really foster a open communication. So this is something that we are going to deal with. And we want our clients to be lifelong clients, and typically they are. We're lucky in that way. So we know we're going to have to deal with some stuff at some point. And so that's a really important aspect to how we run our business and how we look out for our clients. But yes, so there's a system that we have, if we feel like maybe there's some memory issues happening or something else, we always have to document everything, but we kind of ratchet that up and make sure that the client is getting a summary of every single meeting that we have, just so that they don't feel like they have to remember everything. They have it right in front of them. They have that reminder, which brings them comfort and makes them feel secure. And then also, I will meet with my staff here and just let them know this. We need to have a little bit more of an eye on
Yeah.
this person and make sure that we're talking about it. If they call and ask for a really large or out of ordinary withdrawal, then I need to be involved in that and I need to talk to them because I'm starting to see some signs that maybe something's going on.
Good. Thank you for that. And this leads me to my next question and the last. Let's wrap up with this. Um, yeah, you read every day about these horrible schemes and fraud that's being committed, especially with those that are aging. To your mind, what safeguards can be put in place? Do you have any recommendations for the audience?
I do, yes. So I like to call it a personal protection plan. And this is good for not only protecting you and your family from healthcare crisis and spending shocks, but also from, like you were just talking about, from all the scams that are going on, because it is out of control. And the 65 plus population, that is who they're targeting because that's where the wealth is. And they're going to get more and more sophisticated. And that's another thing that we also have a responsibility to keep an eye on and protect our clients from. So I call it it's a four-step protection plan, EEPP. It's easy to remember. Number one, establishing trusted contacts on all of your financial accounts and involving them early. Now, this obviously assumes that you do have trusted people in your life that can be trusted contacts. If you don't, then that's, a different conversation. But if you do have a son, a daughter, somebody that's a generation, at least a generation, below you, so that they can be there if things start to go bad, and involve them early, like I said. So bring them, they don't have to know everything. We can have a meeting with my client and their trusted contact. We don't have to go through everything, but we can start that conversation and give them at least a summary of what's going on, or share as much as you want, or simply just meet me so that they know who to call if something happens, and that we have a trusted contact legally on file so that if we suspect something is going on, we can't divulge and we won't divulge a bunch of details or take any trading transaction requests from them, but we can give them a heads up and say, hey, this is what's going on. Can you please check on them? That gives us the authority to do that. And then number two, of course, is to ensure proper legal documentation and a legal estate plan is in place so that if something happens, um, these things can be triggered. So power of attorney, things like that. And I know that there is a presentation at the symposium that's going to go into much more detail. I believe her name is Libby Donahue.
It'll be done here. Yeah.
Donahue. Yep.
Yeah.
So you share that she's going to go into everything that you need to have to make sure if you go into the hospital, your wishes will be followed and your family will know exactly what to do, which is fantastic. I'm excited to hear that.
And by the way, we have a podcast that we did with Libby a couple of months ago. So it'll be on the Dementia Air Network for anybody that would like to reference that after our discussion. Thanks for
Excellent.
that,
Yeah.
Abby.
I,
Yeah.
I highly recommend that. That's a really important conversation. And then finding somebody that you like and that can execute that estate plan for you. It is the Honestly, it's one of the things that I have to remind my clients and kind of pester them about the most because it's not fun. Nobody wants to go and talk about all the horrible things that can happen to us and our loved one, especially if it's a couple. Not a fun conversation, but once it's done, it's pretty much done, and you can file it in a safe place and have that peace of mind. And then also tell your family where to find it. Let them know that there's a plan in place. Number three is preparing for the cost of future care. So, and then also number four, planning for survivorship. So those can really be combined into one. Um, the cost of not only just typical long-term care, which is on average about 2 years for the typical long-term care stay, it's going to be about 2 years. However, if it's a Alzheimer's dementia related diagnosis, that goes to 7 to 8 years
Oh,
of necessary long-term care. And long-term care expenses are, I mean, exorbitant right now. And most people are not covered by long-term care insurance. And so that money's going to have to come from somewhere. And that can really derail an otherwise very solid retirement plan. And I've seen it happen, unfortunately. So there needs to be at least some type of a plan of what's the plan if one or both of us have to go into a long-term care facility? Because typically what happens, and this is not every time, but typically, the if it's a relationship, the man gets sick first because women live longer, 6 to 7 years longer. The woman becomes the caretaker, as you mentioned earlier, and a lot of the resources go to the person that is needing the long-term care, and that can drain things. And then there's a survivor that doesn't have enough left over, and has, however many years, maybe living into 80s or even 90s these days. And so having that plan for the surviving spouse, no matter which one it is crucial, to having that protection plan in place. And then the last thing I'll mention is we live in a very digital world now. And so even if you have an estate plan in place and all of these different documents in place, they're meaningless unless whoever is stepping in for you have the logins to all your digital world.
yeah.
I mean, emails, phones, because everything requires two-factor authentication. So they need to be able to get into your phone. They need access to your passwords. And you don't have to share all that right now, but it needs to be included in your protection plan so that they can actually do the things they need to do to keep life moving forward, if there's a big health issue that happens.
That is great advice. Thank you for that, Abby.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So, first of all, I want to say thank you for all you do in the community.
You're welcome.
You're very active outside of just your sphere of influence and knowing, what you know in terms of your profession. So
Mhm.
I'll hopefully see you. I'm over in Crestwind. Hopefully we'll see you personally at the Reed Financial Tournament, the pickleball
Yes.
tournament we have that you sponsor every year
Yep,
here.
yep.
And we always
Absolutely.
look
I'll
forward
be
to the
there.
we look forward to the tournament, but better than that is the dinner that we have afterwards. Thank you for all
Isn't
that.
it? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so fun. I'm looking forward to it. We look forward to it every year. It's the eighth year that we've done it, which is
Wow.
crazy. It's flown by, it's gotten so big, and we just absolutely love it. We hang out there all day, watch all the pickleball athletes play, and it's actually gotten me into pickleball. So I just started playing pickleball in the last year,
Oh,
and
really?
now I get why you guys are so into it because it really truly is the funnest game.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. I love it. So for our audience, my guest has been Abby Reed, and thank you so much for joining us today, Abby, as I've said. And we covered some challenging topics, cognitive decline, dementia, and the risks that accompany them. But it's reassuring to know that as a financial advisor, you approach these issues with both sensitivity and really, truly genuine compassion for your clients. Abby, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Bruce. It's been a pleasure.
Beyond Dementia Coalition is on a quest to close the dementia preparedness gap we face. To get there, we sure could use your support as a donor or a volunteer. To get involved, please go to beyonddementiacoalition.org. All donations are tax deductible, and be sure to subscribe to our mailing list to receive our monthly newsletter in your inbox, where we'll share new podcasts, fact sheets, webinars, blogs, and other dementia-related content. This is Dementia Air. See the person beyond the disease.